people? It's your boy Chig from Goona Eagle Eye, coming to you again with a brand new video. That's right, you're through to Chiggy's wishlist, where I talk to you about players that I would buy for Arsenal Football Club. And I'm going to try and keep it to realistic players, and in particular, this is a player that we are currently, as I record this, imminently about to sign apparently, and that is Everton Soares, the 23-year-old Brazilian, who really came to prominence, let's say last season, this season just closed out, but in particular, the Copa America, and the Copa America that we have just seen or completed in the summer, where he did amazingly well. Scored 3 goals but won the Golden Boot. All in all, last season he actually scored 10 goals, provided 1 assist in 26 appearances. We're talking about a guy who is very, very exciting. It's very clear that we're after a guy who, forget my comparison here, but is similar to Iwobi only in the sense that we're talking about someone who likes to take on players, likes to beat players, likes to be able to push the boundaries for as much as possible. And that's one thing that I believe Soares has. He's an excellent dribbler, pretty good finisher, likes his through balls, but he is someone who actually, if we're talking about a front three, could be the missing piece in that jigsaw. Does like playing on the left-hand side, but cutting in on the right. So there is that to keep in mind. We're not talking about someone who, say, for example, like Wilfried Zaha, who's someone who likes to go to the byline before cutting in. With this particular guy, he likes going down the left-hand side and then cutting in. Which, to be honest, I'm not necessarily against. Of course, I would have loved to have had someone who could actually do a little bit of both, to be honest. But yeah, we're talking about someone very exciting, almost typically Brazilian, if you like. You know, very, very exciting, very, very, Brazilians live football. And in my mind, I don't think there's necessarily any harm in that, someone who can live it and breathe it, so to speak. We are thinking of someone who I think will add a lot to the team, because the reason I compared him to Iwobi is that actually only him and Iwobi, and occasionally Mkhitaryan when he feels like reminding us that he is a half-decent player, are the only 3 individuals at most that when they get their ball, the first instinct they have is, right, come on, let me have you. I'm going to take your soul as I run past you or nutmeg you. And that's why, for me, I'm not prepared to shit on Iwobi, because I see enough there that I don't see elsewhere in the team. I do think we need more of it. I do think some of the youngsters potentially have it. Potentially Joe Willock has it. I think Saka has it in abundance as well. I do think potentially Nelson might have it, not necessarily in terms of skill, but more in terms of just raw pace and running at these defenders. There's nothing, I've said this before many, many times on the channel, nothing terrifies defenders like pace. Nothing. Pace is the scariest thing a defender can face. And especially if that person has pace and skill, their first instinct is to back up. And when a defender backs up, that provides more option for the attacking players around him. And I don't think we have enough of that. Forgetting all of that, I think another reason why I think he's such a great asset is because if you're going to play football like us, where it seems like we're determined to play this attacking, play from the back style of football, but also a lot of counter-attacking stuff, you need someone that is actually prepared to take on their man. And I think Soares could be that guy to be able to do that, to be able to take on their man and push them back. How does he compare to someone like Wilfried Zaha? I think a lot of people are going to provide stats. Some stats will favour Wilfried Zaha, some stats will favour us. To me, I think, in my opinion, this fact represents a better value of expenditure to me. That's a really horrible way of saying that I think it's better value. But to me, I think you're looking at a player who won't cost anywhere near what Wilfried Zaha is going to end up costing. But I'll come back to that in a second, because the finance side is a little bit more complicated than is on the face of it. But you're looking at someone who I believe has a bigger ceiling. I think we're seeing the very best of what Wilfried Zaha can offer to me, which is not enough goals, plenty of dribbling, he's clearly very fast, physically stronger than he sometimes makes out. And you'll never know it necessarily when he goes down like a feather, but he won't necessarily do that until he's reached the penalty area. We could do it some penalties sometimes, so I'm not necessarily against that. And that was why I was trying to get used to the idea of Wilfried Zaha on the team. Whereas with Soares, we've seen plenty of him that suggests he's going to be very, very good. Very, very exciting player. I think there is a bigger ceiling. I think he can get even better. I'm a little surprised someone like him doesn't have bigger numbers in terms of assists, which on the one hand, some people might look at that and say, well, he's quite selfish. Actually, I look at that as a positive, as someone who is prepared to take their chance. How many times have we been sat there watching and these idiots will pass it rather than take a shot and take a pass? And it is so frustrating as an Arsenal fan. Whereas I think you have someone like a Soares who is much prepared to say, right, cool, you know what, bun this, I'm going to have a pop, I'm going to have a shot, I'm going to try and make that effort for myself. So I think he actually gives us a different threat to what we already have. He's a completely different player to an Aubameyang or a Lacazette. And I think for that reason, I think he'd be an excellent purchase in the team. And without trying to sound like a boring old fart, let's just call a spade here. We are in a situation where it forces us almost to be a selling club. So provided that Arsenal now start managing their contract situations better, there should be no reason in a lot of ways why he can't all of a sudden become our Pepe, for example. Another player we have been linked with, although it turned out those stories were fake as Amber from Love Island's breast. So I think for that reason, completely lost myself in that flow. But the good thing about that, and I think the thing that to take from that, is that we can have someone that could be our version of that. You know, obviously Pepe is the same age, so you might be sat there thinking, huh? But actually, there could be an opportunity where Soares has just a bigger ceiling as a Pepe. He's made a big impact on an international stage, something even Pepe hasn't really done for France. So I think for me, in terms of Soares, I think he represents an excellent buy, an excellent purchase. And sorry, one thing I was going to say, and I completely lost my flight, completely got muddled up. But I'll leave it in there because it's funny. What I was actually going to say is, without being too much of a boring old fart, but let's just be honest, Arsenal are a bit of a selling club. And this represents a good opportunity to tie down someone that could be potentially a 100 million plus player. Potentially. Now, I think that further complicates itself when you think about the fact that Grameo at the moment technically own 50% of this guy. Because 20% I think is owned by his agent, and then like some sort of slave thing, I don't know what that's about. And 30% is owned by some other investor. I've got a feeling for this deal to be moving as quickly as it's moving, we're just buying the 50%. I don't know that for a fact. I've just got this feeling. Apparently the fee is set to be about 25 million up front, with add-ons and bonuses taking it up to 40 million euros. That still feels a little bit, I won't say cheap because it's not cheap, but lower than expected, I guess, for a 23-year-old exciting Brazilian. But I ain't complaining. Let's see what happens. Let's see how far we can go. And to me, hopefully later this week, I'll be making a welcome to Arsenal video for Everton Soares. And I'll be happy. I really will. You guys let me know if you'd be happy. Leave it in the comments below. If you like this video, crush, destroy, please hit that like button. I appreciate it when you guys do that. I'll be back later on this evening for my usual Eagle Eye episode, where I'll be talking about Josh Kroenke's interview. Because I initially, yesterday, at the time I did my Eagle Eye, all I thought he did was a statement. It turns out, actually, he did an interview on Arsenal.com. He also talked to friends of the show, the Gooner Pod, which they have a fascinating story as to how they managed to land that sort of interview. So I'll give my comments on those as well. Do a real dissection on Emre's latest comments about the fact that he wants Arsenal to get 2 or 3 big players, 3 or 4 big players is what he said, or expensive players. Just because you want expensive players doesn't mean he'll necessarily get it. It's like I said about Neil Lennon yesterday. Neil Lennon says he wants 50 million for Tierney, but just because you want doesn't mean you'll get. So it is what it is, people. But anyway, I'm out of here. I'll see you guys later. Take care. Deuces.